Good morning or good afternoon. I'm Melinda Vasquez, Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Investment Committee. It is 1:08 p.m. on September 25th, 2024, and I'm calling to order the special meeting of the investment company. We are meeting in person this afternoon with committee members and staff in attendance. We have a quorum with 3 members present. The video of today's meeting is also being streamed live online. The link to watch today's meeting is on the Housing Commission's website at www.sdhc.org. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to the committee will need to complete a speaker slip here in the boardroom and submit to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, who is standing at the side of the boardroom to my left. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold-colored form. To speak in opposition to any item on the agenda, please submit the pink-colored form. Those who wish to address the committee about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker slip request form. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about the agenda items or non-agenda public comments. However, if a large number of people wish to provide a non-agenda public comments or speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. Non-agenda public comments we will now proceed with non-agenda public comments. Are there any? No. Okay. Mr. Marshall has informed us that there are no non-agenda public comments. Next item are going to be the minutes for. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the Investment Committee on March 15th, 2024. Are there any speaker slips? Okay. No speaker slips have been submitted on this afternoon regarding the minutes. Do we have any comments or changes to the minutes at this point? No? Okay. Seeing none, I will hear a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
You're the only one that can do it, because you're the only one that was at that meeting.
Okay, typically the chair does not move, but I will absolutely do it.
We actually conferred with counsel about that before today's meeting, and he advised that Robert's rules of order do allow the committee members who were not present at the previous meeting to provide corrections or vote on the minutes, even though you weren't there. He's indicated that that's not spelled out in a specific rule of Robert's rules of order, but that it is a standard practice based on the interpretation of the rules for Robert's rules.
It doesn't matter. I'll vote.
In addition to that, my experience is also that the chair can move on a motion. It's just not typical. They can vote as well. Typically, it's out of respect, it's not done because the chair is supposed to be non-biased. So I will hear a motion to approve the minutes from the March 15th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Commissioner Kushner. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and seconded by Commissioner Klumpner. Any discussion regarding the main motion on the floor, which is the approval of the March 15th, 2024 minutes? See no discussion, I will call the order. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously with 2 votes. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is 100, the informational investment report for the 4th quarter of fiscal year 2024. We will take public comment after the staff has presented. Suket Dale, our Executive Vice President of Business Administration and Chief Financial Officer, and Christelle von der Wind, our Vice President of Financial Operations, will be presenting this item. I hope I didn't butcher your name.
Van der Wint. Yeah, it's close, very close.
Okay, Christelle Van der Wint.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, please begin when you're ready.
All right. So good morning, Chair Vasquez, Commissioner Klumpner, and Cushman. I'm Christelle Van der Wint, Vice President of Financial Operation, and I'll be presenting the investment report for the first quarter of fiscal year 2024. The Housing Commission's investment policy confirmed to HUD Notice PIH 9633 and the California Government Code Section 5922 and 54601. This guides the type of investment that can be purchased and specify the length of time an investment can be held. Our policy objective prioritize safety or low-risk investment, liquidity with continuous revenue stream with our laddered approach. Ladder investment strategy involves spreading out investment across a range of maturity dates, so investment mature at staggered intervals. And we're looking also at yield and local considerations. So this is the Housing Commission investment portfolio by investment type as of June 30, 2024, or Q4, and compared to March 31st, 2024, or Q3. I'd like to highlight that the overall cash and investment portfolio market value was $160.59 million as of June 30, 2024, compared to $162.86 million as of March 31st, 2024. This $2 million decrease from the previous quarter was primarily due to an increase of $7 million in MTW VASH and emergency housing voucher costs, offset by $4.2 million of emergency temporary lodging funds received from the county for flood victims. You'll notice the average yield has also increased from 2.77% to 3.16%. This is due to investing in June $15 million in U.S. government and asset-backed securities with an average yield of 5.47%. We expect our portfolio average yield to continue to rise as securities purchased back in fiscal year 2021 at a lower yield reach maturity in fiscal year 2025 and are reinvested at the current higher rates. This is our portfolio maturity schedule. Here you can see our entire portfolio as a maturity of 4 years or less. About a third of our cash and investment portfolio is considered highly liquid with a maturity date of 90 days or less. You also note that about $35 million of our agency bond securities will be maturing within a year. Next slide. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any question you may have.
I'll start with the commissioners. Do any of the commissioners have questions about the presentation? Oh, pardon me. I went off script. No, I did not. I'm good. We didn't have any. No speaker slips have been submitted for item 100, so that concludes the public comment period for this item. Now we will proceed with any question or comments on this item from the committee members, is the official way. Is there any, does any of the commissioners have questions about the presentation? No? Okay, this is an informational item, so no motion or vote is required.
So yes, I have a comment. I don't have a question, I just have a comment. So I understand in talking to Lisa, it's been 12 years since we have done an RFP on our investment advisor. And so I just wanted to, for the record, state that I think it's time to do an RFP for investment advisor, and I would strongly suggest staff consider that. Thank you.
Okay. Next item 101 is on the agenda, this is the informational presentation and discussion about the Housing Commission investments. We will take public comment after the presentation. Zuket and Christelle will be also presenting on this item. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just wanted to have a presentation and have a little bit of an investment discussion. Some of you are new to the committee, so we just wanted to have a quick presentation on our investment policy and the way it goes. So starting with, on a quarterly basis, we have an informational item that is presented at the Board of Commissioners. It's not presented, it is part of your packet to the Board of Commissioners. It's an information item, which basically covers our investments. The Board of Commissioners also appoint the investment committee, which is typically 3 members, and we meet on an annual basis as an investment committee. Our investments are managed by us with the assistance of Mishler Financial Group. Joe Foyer is the Vice President of Fixed Income Portfolio Analytics for Mishler, and him, along with myself, Christelle, and Amy, make decisions on our investments. Christelle mentioned what we look for. Our focus is always on safety, liquidity, and yield. Safety being number 1. We do use a laddered approach, as she mentioned. It's a strategy used mostly by government agencies, typically given the objectives of our strategy. There's interest risk rate mitigation, there's liquidity and flexibility, and there's diversification of maturity risks. This is also a strategy that's used by the City of San Diego. We have discussed a few other strategies. We've discussed the bullet strategy, maturity strategy, but we feel that works better if our cash flows were predictable and if we knew exactly what we needed at a certain time. That is one of the issues that you're going to see in our later slides. Our needs are not consistent, and they're dependent on external conditions that are often not in our control. We talked about our core holdings, 112 million core holdings, 17.1 million is invested locally in local agency investment funds and the San Diego County Investment Pool. Let's talk about what our money constitutes of. A good portion of it is our affordable housing fund. An example of what a need might be would be to make milestone payments on developments that have been awarded these funds through a NOFA. None of us have a crystal ball. Just want to point out federal interest rates are not predictable. It's very hard to determine a pattern. We definitely see a clear run up from 22 till 24, and now we're seeing kind of a leveling off at 24. With the anticipation and expectation, given what we read right now, is we are going to see a drop in rates as we go further. So some of the factors that impact our investments, we talked about the Affordable Housing Fund being a good source for our investments, and that has seen a decline in the collections. There's also uncertainty regarding funding levels at a federal, state, city level. We have seen a slowdown in refinancing activities, so a lot of the loans that we pay off in our Affordable Housing Fund, when they're paid back, they come back to us, and then again, they're investment opportunities for us. Because of the rates, we've seen we haven't seen significant cash flows generated from developers that are willing to pay back their loans before maturity. Let's talk about some of the considerations that we do have to keep in mind. So a good example, just a few examples. When the feds don't budget when the feds are unable to balance their budget, we have to make sure that San Diego Housing Commission is ready to make the housing assistance payments to our landlords. When there's a shutdown threat, any kind of a threat, we've been very strong in having the backing and the commitment of being able to make our payments, regardless of the issues that are happening at the feds. Another example was our recent home key acquisition, where we knew we had the award, but by the time it took for us to get the money physically for Pacific Village in our books, we would have had a seller that may not have waited that long. So we did go ahead and front SDHC funds to acquire the property, and of course, were reimbursed when we got the money from HomeKey, which were then later on invested. This slide captures our investment over the past 4 years. A lot of what we've talked about is kind of represented on this slide. Just to run through one line, in fiscal year 2021, we invested $75 million, total 54 investment times, yield to maturity average of 0.92, and we've put some other yields on there, compared to jumping all the way to fiscal year 2024, where we invested $15 million, 2 bites at the apple, if you want to call it, and we were able to secure good rates as far as 5.47%. We also bring up this slide because as 21 and 22 start maturing, as Christelle mentioned, then those are going to be investment opportunities for us that are going to happen in fiscal year 2025, depending on the needs of the agency. No right answer. There's advantages of short-term investments. There are disadvantages in short-term investments. You have access to cash. You have predictable returns. And then the disadvantages, if you're on the lowering end of the chart that we saw, then your reinvestment interest risk is always there. Same can be said for longer-term investments. There are some advantages in our ABS, asset-backed securities. We do have a little bit more of a diversified portfolio, but then the disadvantages also are if it's a callable, if we decide to invest in U.S. government callable bonds, then there's a prepayment and a call risk on there. So many different ways to slice this apple. No one right answer, and we work with our advisor to see what's best and what will work best for the agency. And that's the presentation. Open it up for question and answers.
No speaker slips have been submitted for item 1. No speaker slips have been submitted for item 101, so this concludes the public comment period for this item. Now we'll proceed with any questions or comments on this item from committee members. It looks as if Commissioner Cushman has a comment. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sukat, what percent do we get on the 17.1 million that we have invested locally? What's the return on that, or Christelle? On the 17.1 with LAFCO, or whatever it is.
On you. The average return for this one is 4.25%.
4.25.
Yes.
And the maturity of that?
Maturity is short-term maturity, a year or less.
Year or less, cool. So, Sukat, what is our investment advisor recommending for the monies that you have coming up? Obviously, you have to balance it against when you're going to need money, but assuming, you'll make that decision as to what you're willing to invest and for how long. But what is their investment? We just saw a 0.5 point rate cut. We know there's going to be at least 2 more rate cuts in the future. So what are they recommending we do about a ladder at this point?
We're looking at MBS and ABS, mortgage-backed securities and asset-backed securities.
As an option. What length?
For 2 years. 2 to
2
3
years.
2 to 3 years is what we're looking at right now.
Because there seems to be some really good short-term 1-year money out there, depending on when you have it. So, but they're coming back to you saying you should be looking at 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions by the commissioners? Oh, it doesn't look. Any other questions from the commissioners? It doesn't look like there are any.
I'll just say certainly staff are comfortable taking feedback and doing an RFP just to see what other options are out there.
Thank you.
So we will certainly move forward with that process. It's been a long time, so it doesn't hurt to take a look. And we basically, as they presented, we want to manage risk, but also see what our opportunities are and make sure that we can pay those bills when those checks come due. right? And then I think to Suket, you made a good point about you might have a really good rate right now, but if you're seeing things trend down, maybe a 2-year is safer than a 6-month, because in 6 months, when you repurchase, you're going to be in bad shape, right? But that's ideally what our consultant that we find, whether it's a new one or or the same one, will help us figure out.
I'll just chime in that I'll also agree with the suggestion about an RFP, and I do want to make it clear, this is not a referendum on our current consultants or anything. We've the whole agency, we've restructured our management setup. We have a new CEO who has not been here for that long a period of time. We've been making our way through a steady stream of RFPs, and so I think to the point about 12 years seems like a good amount of time, and we're in a period right now where we're taking a look at everything, and this makes sense to run a competitive process around this as well. So,
Any other comments? All right. This is also an informational item, so no motion or vote is required. This concludes the Investment Committee's special meeting today. This meeting adjourned at 1:29.
And I assume once